Wagwan. Good morning, good night, welcome back. And if you're listening for the first time, I'm your host Melanie Byfield, welcoming you to episode 30 of The Real Situation, where we give you a taste of Jamaican politics. So the final two debates took place. The topic of the second debate was the economy, and the third and final debate was the leadership debate between the Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Leader of the Opposition Mark Golding. Some of the questions in the second debate involved the school buses imported from the US, corruption where the Dennis Chung appointment was raised, growth of the economy, the food importation bill, strategies addressing brain drain, and healthcare. Some comments on the third debate. There was the funding of the PNP's proposed $3.5 million tax threshold for those earning $6 million or less. The Prime Minister's uncertified statutory declarations and the allegations of illicit enrichment. The SSL saga, failure to sign a code of conduct by the government. And what the hell is the deal with who is Jamaican from who ain't Jamaican? That whole topic for me is some colonial divide and conquer effery. Listen, from time you're born in Jamaica, you're Jamaican, right? From time you have Jamaican descent, you're Jamaican, irrespective of generations, right? Argument done. Marriage not even feature. You can change your marital status. You can't change your blood? No. Okay, what do I have to say about the debates generally? Any of those debaters can look you right in the eyes in the camera and say something that might sound good. At the end of the day, your knowledge is really important. Media is important. Facts are important. The way you use the truth and that way you can use the truth and judge who you believe and how you're going to vote. And your vote matters. No gimmicks or rehearsed comebacks. This is serious stuff. You're not voting for who you think should win the voice. This is about the roads you drive on, the school your children go to, garbage collection, corruption, governance, your light bill, beach access, the air you breathe, the water you may or may not have, pollution of the rivers in your parish and your standard of living, etc. So tomorrow's election day, September 3. A number of young people have cited dissatisfaction, disillusionment and distrust in the political system as reasons for opting out of the electoral process. 18% of the registered voters on the May 31, 2025 voters list are in the age of 18 to 29. Making Gen Z, that's the 1995 to 2009 age group, a formidable electoral force should they choose to participate. Why does that matter? Even though some people might argue that young people are unreliable voters, those are game-changing numbers. And while there may not be a lot of issues that young people feel they care about right now, those issues will directly affect them real soon. And especially as they become older, their vote matters. What are some young people saying about the reasons that they will or won't vote? A gentleman called Luke said, "I don't intend to possess a voter's identification card. I feel no sense of personal responsibility in casting a vote. To me, the connection between my individual vote and actual change seems indirect and unclear. Without seeing immediate or tangible impact, it's hard to feel like my participation directly influences the outcome. Then you have another young person who said, I'm voting because my vote is my voice. And as the popular saying goes, close mouth, don't get fed. I've always advocated not for a party, but for the decisions made in the best interest of the people. It was never about bleeding green or orange. It was always about the opportunities for the average Jamaican. There's another young person who says, I do believe that more young people should be concerned with what their country deems as important. After all, you will have to bear the aftermath of a situation you could have changed with one vote. Rather than sulking and saying that nothing makes sense, why not pick the sense out of the nonsense and choose what's best for you and your family? Another young person gave a quote saying, ask some serious questions. Where do you see yourself post-election? Who do you think, by way of factual and statistically backed statements, will provide you with the environment to flourish? And then one last statement is, it all goes back to who comes the closest to your beliefs, to fostering a better Jamaica for you and your family to flourish. Voting issues. There's a letter of the day that was submitted by the Advocates Network called "The People's Agenda Should Be the Sole Priority." The article says, inspired by Marcus Garvey's principle that government must empower people and safeguard their rights, the People's Agenda stresses fairness, accountability, transparency, integrity, and equal opportunity as the foundation for national transformation, and identifies 3 core areas of change: economic well-being, governance reform, and community empowerment. Putting people's economic well-being first, they've given some data. So 80% say that the plight of poorer Jamaicans is the same or worse after 10 quarters of growth. That was in 2023. 84% say that the rising cost of living is their biggest concern. Don't forget there were protests, especially in the hotel sector. And the article goes on to say the bottom-up economic policies that directly improve lives include good paying jobs and fair opportunities for entrepreneurship, quality education that includes lessons in citizenship, civics, and opens real doors, affordable housing and land ownership, the right to beaches, rivers, greater participation in the tourism economy and environmental conservation, modern infrastructure, right? Roads, water, internet, electricity that works for everyone, and a safe environment to live, work, raise families, and retire. Fixing a broken system of governance. There's some more data that is given here. 79% of the population want to directly elect a head of state. 70% want the appointment of the head of state to be made by the Prime Minister in consultation with the people. 92% want impeachment laws for corrupt politicians. 89% call for recall powers for underperforming MPs. 81% want fixed election dates. Changes to increase accountability, support good governance, and improve standards of living include greater parliamentary oversight and citizens' rights to petition, transparent and accountable governance, an independent judiciary rooted in Jamaican and Caribbean values, and an empowered local government with resources and decision-making. And then that third element they referred to, empowering communities. Some of the facts, the issues that they've referred to is that communities remain powerless, under-resourced and excluded from decisions affecting them. Following the 2024 local government election, 61% of Jamaicans saw no change in municipal operations, perceiving only the same old management. Local government reform that empowers communities to lead their own development includes community-level decision-making power, support for local entrepreneurship, stronger partnership among communities, businesses and government, and strategies to build resilience against climate change, economic shocks and global crises. In addition to that article, there was also an article by Dr. Trevor Monroe, Professor of Government at UWI and founding director of the National Integrity Action. Dr. Monroe says that, we need to demand a stronger democracy and don't take it for granted. What are ways to strengthen this democracy? There is the Electoral Commission of Jamaica and its constitutional protection. Dr. Monroe says that, without this safeguard, any government can use its majority to abolish the ECJ, or to do what the present administration has done, namely change the law to put the non-partisan character of the institution at risk, and doing so without consultation, despite widespread disagreement from the parliamentary opposition, the church, the private sector, civil society, and the media. There's the Office of the Political Ombudsman, that Parliament restores its independence and separates it from the ECJ. There is campaign finance legislation, that Parliament strengthens the legislation to, among other things, require disclosure to the public on a year-round basis who and which entity is donating big money to political parties. With regard to supporting infrastructure, Dr. Monroe goes on to say that each party should make a commitment and be held accountable regarding things like the amending the Proceeds of Crime Act, right, to institute unexplained wealth orders, a public commitment made on the eve of the 2020 general elections by both Prime Minister Holness and the then leader of the opposition, Peter Phillips. The commitment was repeated by the Holness government in the Governor-General's 2023 throne speech. Yet today, law enforcement and anti-corruption agencies remain deprived of this tool to hold those account who acquire over 100 billion annually of our national product by corrupt means. Another way to support the strengthening of infrastructure is to pass impeachment legislation, right, to punish MPs found guilty of misconduct or unlawful behaviour. This is a commitment in it was a commitment in the Vision 2030. There was a bill introduced by Mark Golding, and a Don Anderson poll in 2023 said that over 90% of Jamaicans support impeachment legislation. There's the preservation and strengthening, not the abandoning of the law against the full enrichment clause, which was passed by the Holness government in 2017, amending the gag clause in the Integrity Commission Act to set criteria to remove the absolute ban on telling the public who is being investigated for corruption, and reject the proposal to remove the Auditor General from the Commission. Publish the summary of the statutory declarations of the assets, incomes and liabilities of MPs, and not only that of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. Pass legislation to empower citizens in each constituency to initiate the right of recall of MPs and councillors deemed guilty of misconduct or non-performance in the fulfilment of promises made. A Carl Stone poll in 1992 found 72%, and a Don Anderson survey of 2023 found over 88% of Jamaicans support that right. Resume the practice stopped in 2020 of quarterly publication by ministries, departments and agencies of contract awards. Restore the convention initiated by Bruce Golding's government of opposition MPs chairing sessional committees to probe operations of government. Implement the provision of the Public Bodies Management Accountability Act that allows prosecution of officials responsible for repeated failure to submit annual reports to Cabinet, to Parliament and to us, the people, on how our money is spent by the public bodies. Recommit the Constitution Amendment Bill to the new Parliament, but ensure the amendment of the bill to establish full sovereignty is to establish full sovereignty in the executive and judicial branches, and to ensure that there's a substantial public education and citizen consultation to establish Jamaica's parliamentary republic. Professor Dr. Monroe goes on to say that not taking our democracy for granted means making demands on our political leaders, voting to strengthen the democratic foundation of free and fair elections, but also voting to strengthen democratic structure to safeguard it against elected governments who use the vote to primarily benefit themselves and their cronies, ensure equal rights and justice for us, the majority. Okay, so moving on to where the reference to the judiciary was concerned, right? One of the issues with constitutional reform is Jamaica's final appellate court. Senator Donna Scott Motley, I'm going to reference an article that she submitted, where she said that the CCJ was designed with independence and sustainability in mind. Jamaica was a founding member in the court of 2001 and contributed over 27 million to the CCJ Trust Fund, a financial mechanism established to ensure the court's autonomy and insulating it from political interference. The court has since earned a reputation for impartiality and innovation, handling both original jurisdiction cases from the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas and appellate jurisdiction for states that have opted in. Bigging up the court, right? She's saying that leadership is not about holding titles or delivering lofty speeches. It's about clarity, consistency and courage, especially when the stakes involve our sovereignty, our justice system and our future. Senator Scott Motley goes on to say, the moment is ripe. A Jamaican leads CARICOM, that's the Prime Minister. A Jamaican presides over the CCJ, the newly the new president, Justice Anderson. Now, President Anderson, the stars are aligned for bold action. It's time to stop delaying. It's time for Jamaica to complete its journey for full judicial independence, right? Not just in words, but in law and legacy. Apparently, the Prime Minister now agrees with an alternative. But during the leadership debate, he did finally confirm the government's position on Jamaica's final court of appeal. Mr. Holness said that Jamaica should have its own local final court of appeal. In the first Joint Select Committee meeting in January 2025, the PNP postponed their participation until the government explained their position on Jamaica's final court of appeal and the reason for not wanting to remove the UK Privy Council. So since that time, this is the first time since January 2025, and since this whole thing started back in 2022, this is the first time that a position's been put forward by the government. What did Lloyd Barnett have to say? Lloyd Barnett, the constitutional expert, have to say about Jamaica's final court being local? I quote, "No serious person considers that to be an alternative." Let's not forget that about 60% of Jamaicans positively support the adoption of the Caribbean Court of Justice as Jamaica's final court of appeal. So there's also the issue that Jamaica is legally obligated to ascend to the appellate arm of that court. So watch this space, and we're going to see how that develops. Citing substantive differences, the Jamaica First Movement and the Jamaica Progressive Party, that is the JFM and the JPP, have announced the mutual dissolution of their recent political alliance. So they're not, joining forces again. Be it the JFM, the JPP, the JLP, or the PNP, however you choose to vote, please vote. Your vote counts. In 2020, 21% of the electorate determined who got 100% of the government. If you don't vote, you'll be governed by the choices of those who do. Are you willing to take that chance? I'm going to leave you with a quote from the right excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, first national hero of Jamaica. "Chance has never yet satisfied the hope of a suffering people." You can find this podcast on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Podcast Index, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. If you want to reason about anything or you can't find any of the material I was talking about, you can email me on atasteofja@outlook.com. Until the next time, I thank you for supporting this podcast. Please subscribe, like, follow, and share it with your friends and family. And again, I thank you for taking the time to listen. And tomorrow, September 3, please, I beg you, please vote. One love. Yes, the word is love.